So in this video, I'm going to explain a tactic that I've witnessed in so many people as well as in childhood. I did myself, but now that I see it in others and I can see it in myself, I can prevent myself from doing it, but I see it all the time. I've even seen my family, my own father, mother do this as well. And a lot of people haven't grown out of it yet, even in their 80s and 90s. I'll give you an example of this using my roommate who's in his 80s as an example. So my roommate likes to cook food, but he loses his appetite and I'm at work. I'll be at work from maybe 12 to 9:30 and get home at like 9:30, 9:40, something like that. Well, if he cooks a meal at 1, I'm probably going to not want the crusty leftovers that are left on the stove because he doesn't wrap them, he doesn't refrigerate them, he just leaves them out with flies crawling all over it. So he likes cooking the meals, but he loses his appetite, so the whole meal gets left on the stove and thrown out. So I had a talk with him about this, saying, don't use my food for this. If you're going to cook a big, giant meal enough for 4 people, use your own food, because I'm not here. I'm at work. So don't be using my food to cook a giant meal and then just throw it in the trash. I can't afford to be paying for that. So I had that conversation with him, and I've had to have it a couple more times. Well, one of his buddies came over and he was talking about wasting food, and that got brought up. Now, this is where the behavior of trying not to take responsibility for your actions comes into play. So I didn't throw him under the bus either. It was mentioned, the meals, they saw it in the trash, they were over, all that. I said, oh yeah, once in a while Dave loses his appetite, so do I, and the food ends up in the trash. I try to be nice about it. At this point, Dave goes, yeah, you throw away trash all the time, laughing. No, I don't. I absolutely don't. I throw away the fat from a steak, or the skin from a turkey, or the skin from chicken. That's what I throw away. The only other things I throw away are stuff that's mold or rotten that's gone bad. And he knows this. But see, he knows that I throw away the chicken fat or the turkey fat from my turkey. So now he's going to use that as I throw away food. And then he's going to take that and change it into the conversation we're having, where we're talking about a brand new meal that was cooked and the whole meal going in the trash. We're talking about stuffing that's been left out for 9 hours. We're talking about some chicken a la king that he invented on the stove. And we're talking about some homemade gravy that's lumpy now. We're talking about something like that's been left out for 9 hours. I come home from work, I already ate my supper, see this crusty stuff, and I'm not going to eat. Plus, I have a rule from the doctor, and he knows this. I do not eat any meal unless I've seen it prepared, because I've had GI issues and food poisoning several times. So I cannot eat a meal unless I see it prepared. And so he knows that these are 2 very different things. Throwing away the bones of your chicken or the fat that you peel off the skin, that's a little different than throwing away the whole chicken. I'm eating my chicken, I'm just peeling off the fat, or I am skinning the white part off a steak, that fatty substance. And he's using that as a way to not take responsibility and then put it onto me. And then I have to explain to the person what I do, because I don't want to have him misunderstand what's going on. I don't like when people get misled, and I don't want to be part of misleading people. So then I have to explain, well, I peel the fat and cut off the fat of some of my foods. I like fat, but not the chewy stuff, because I have no teeth. It doesn't break down when I chew it. And I just tell them that I chew chicken fat, it doesn't break up anymore. I love chicken fat. I always hated beef fat, the white part of a steak. I never liked that. And there's a word for that. I can't think of it at the moment. But but I can't do either anymore because I have no teeth. It doesn't break up, and I end up just chewing, 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 as well as it sometimes chokes when I try to swallow it. So I can't eat the chicken fat. But he's using that as an example of him throwing away whole meals to take the responsibility off of him and put it on me. Now, I was nice. I just said we lose our appetites because we don't feel so good, and sometimes the food ends up in the trash. And then he takes up and says, Zach throws away food all the time. Well, that's because he knows it was him. That trash can is filled with his food on the top. You can see all the different food on the top. And he knows it's his. So he feels bad that this is now being talked about. So what does he do? He avoids responsibility and he throws it in my face. He goes, Zach throws away all the food. So then I have to mention, well, this isn't my food. And then he goes, oh, yeah, well, I know. And then I also have to tell the guest we have over and explain to him, hey, yeah, I throw away my chicken fat, peel it off, but I'm super religious and believe not to waste. I reuse water bottles. I eat other people's food as long as I know it was prepared right. I finish other, like if somebody's over for dinner and they are done eating and the stuff left on their plate, I'll bring it to the stove, and as soon as they leave, eat it because I saw it prepared and it's only an hour or two after it was made and it's all good. I'll do stuff like that as long as I can cut off the part that touched their mouth. I don't like other people's mouths. It grows me out. But I take every single part that I can of eating. I mean, nothing goes to waste in my house. Nothing. The bread gets eaten. I check expiration dates. Like if eggs are a week to expire, then we have a whole egg breakfast week where every egg gets used up that week. And these are my ideas and things I do to make sure the food isn't wasted. I eat what's coming up. I try to make sure that nothing goes in the trash, and I do a very good job of it. But my roommate David is the opposite of that. And I don't try to push him into being like religious or push him into not wasting or push him into any of that. I offer, do you want to go to church with me? No, okay. Do you know, I'm cleaning out the fridge. Do you want this, this, and this? Or I'll say, oh, please, if you're going to make a dinner, wait until I'm home on this day and I'll help you eat it. Or I'll try to help out in some way. But that's not what I get in return. What I get in return is thrown off the bus. Thrown under the bus. And that's a big problem. It really is, because then people get the wrong idea. And I don't want people having the wrong idea of me. I don't have a lot of time for first impressions with people. I come in the town, I work real hard, I meet a lot of people real quick, and then I'm moving on to the next town. I've spent 8 years in this town. That's the most I've ever spent in one spot in my life. In my whole 31 years I've been alive, this is the longest I've been able to stay in one spot, and it's all due to my hard work. And I'd like to stay here for another 5 years while saving money and move to a warmer climate and get the same setup. But my roommate's a big problem. There was a lot I didn't know about him when I moved up here. And honestly, these behaviors are common in everybody. I've seen them in my coworkers, my parents, family members, strangers, bus drivers, taxi drivers. I've seen these behaviors in so many people. And there's a lot of them, but some of them are no big deal. Like one of the taxi drivers is hyper and talkative and gives too much information. No, similar to me. That's one of my issues. I'm talkative, I'm hyper, I give out too information, and I'm not willing to lie for people. Not willing to manipulate or mislead either. I consider those forms of lying. Now, I sometimes accidentally mislead somebody or I'll be mistaken. Everybody can be mistaken, that happens. But I don't purposely be mistaken. That's the difference. Anybody who's purposely being mistaken, they got a problem. And this is something I've noticed with a lot of people nowadays, is they'll either play stupid, they'll waste what they have, especially the people over 40. The people over 40, over 50, they seem to waste the most. I would say the people born from 1935 all the way up to 1960, the people who were born in those years seem to have this different mentality, not reuse, recycle, or anything like that, because we've had that shoved down our throat since childhood. My generation, we've had this recycle, save the environment shoved down our throat. But I just don't see that mentality in the older generation. It seems to be wasteful. And what's funny is when you go back just 10 years to the people who were born in the 1920s, 1910s, they were very not wasteful. They were save your own, like save paper so you could wipe twice type people. They were super, super conservative on conserving their goods, not conservative like Republican, conservative like conserving your goods. They were very good at that. But then something happened where the people who were in their 30s in the 1970s started getting a lot more income, a lot more goods, especially the middle class, upper classes, and the 1%. Their incomes rocketed. And now we have this use up and throw away mentality in America. And my roommate exhibits it all the time, but he doesn't have the money to replace it, so he tries to take the money from me and other places. He'll go to the food pantry. People will give him some of their food pantry stuff. He'll go, "Oh, that looks good. That looks good. Oh, I only can get one. Okay. Well, I want three. I can't have three. I really want three." Then somebody will be like, "Oh, you can have mine," and then you can have mine, and then he'll go home and waste all three. You just took two other persons' Chef Boyardees, and you just threw all three in the trash can. That's that me. No problem. It's not a big deal. I got it for free mentality in the trash. When I get food from the food pantry, like rice or vegetables, it's on the top of my list because the broccoli, when I inspect it, if it looks good and it's coming home with me, that means it's just as good as the broccoli from the grocery store. But I have broccoli in the freezer for broccoli cheddar or a nice broccoli soup or something like that. I make it from scratch. And that was from the food pantry. It's frozen. It's not going anywhere. And it's as green and as juicy and as yummy as any of the broccoli at the grocery store. So, yes, I make sure to conserve what I have and try to make it last. Like that broccoli that I brought home, I could have put in the refrigerator and it would have been easier for me to make. But if I didn't make it within a certain amount of time, then it would go bad. So I froze it right away, and now I have to boil it, and I have to do a couple extra steps before preparing it. But that's all right because now I'm not wasting. But my roommate, no, he will refrigerate it if it's from the pantry. He's not freezing and saving, and he's not messing around. He's not adding extra steps to his routine. No. He'll just throw it away. And this is the mentality that most of America has. They come home with a broccoli from the food pantry and they have to make a decision. Do I want to eat this week and put it in the refrigerator and chance wasting it? I have all this food here, so maybe I will, or maybe it's only 3 days. Maybe you got 2 days to eat it. Or do I freeze it and then I can eat it whenever my family wants broccoli? And most of the people will put it in the refrigerator, forget about it, and throw it away. Or hopefully they'll put it in the refrigerator and eat it. But anyways, still, freezing it is no different. You can still cook it in the exact same way as if you refrigerated it. You just have to take it out or you have to prepare it ahead of time, and it takes a little longer and it's a little more work. And that's just something I don't see in most people. They just want to cut corners. It's a lot of my generation too. I'm not saying that there's a special type of person. There is no person. I'm just seeing it more in these older folks than I'm seeing it in people who are 35, 45, a couple 25. But most the people of my generation have a pot problem. That's the big issue with the people age 18 all the way up to about 45, is that they're big into drugs, pot, and there's also a lot of them thinking that they have some type of illnesses. They're all that's big in my generation too, is that we're convinced that we all have something wrong with us. What some of it is, we all do have different words for it, but there's no reason to totally let your life fall apart and go on Social Security just because you have anxiety. I mean, anxiety is a form of fear, and it serves a purpose. It really does. It warns you when danger is ahead, and sometimes anxiety, the danger might be low level, and you're getting a big response, but it still is something that helped us through history. Now we don't need it much anymore, and that drives people nuts, but you can still live a great life. ADHD. There's millions of people with ADHD. They don't take medication and they have great lives. What's the difference? They don't look at it as a disability. They look at it as a ability, because some of these disabilities can be abilities. Like, for instance, autism. Maybe you have autism and you can't be social. You don't get social cues. But then you also can add numbers real quick, and you can remember stuff for long periods of time that most people can't remember. Well, those are gifts, those are abilities. So even though you have a disability, autism, you may have abilities that other people don't have. And if you look at it as I have abilities versus I have disabilities, then that can help you move forward in life. And there's a lot of people out there who have conquered their disabilities by overcoming them and then using the abilities that come with it. Like hyperactivity can be an ability when properly controlled. So this is something that's going on. A lot of geniuses or people who have done amazing things and have had great feats in history have had something different with them, some type of what you might call a mental illness or an illness or a disability, and that's made them greater or more more able to overcome the challenges that most people can't overcome. Like, for instance, President um, I think it was the Roosevelts. He was in a wheelchair, became president. Like I said, there's other people use their ADHD as a hyper additive. If they're hyper all the time, that can help productivity. You also have trouble concentrating, but there are some tasks that don't really require much concentration. There's also, like I said, autism. Some of those people are fantastic with computers. Oh my God, fantastic with computers. They might not be able to hold a conversation or pick up sarcasm, but he might be able to steal your bank account numbers and wipe you out in a weekend. So these people do have abilities, and that's something you have to keep in mind when discussing the subject or even thinking about it. And if you do that as a disabled individual, look at your own disabilities, see where you're faltering, but see also where you're ahead of others, and try to improve your faults and work on those abilities. Then you can be the best person that you can be, and you might even have abilities that surpass others that you can get jobs or money from. So there's a lot of this to go into. And this is why I guess I like having these videos too, is I start off with something like not wasting and how that works and how people need to kind of wake up and realize, that like a water bottle, using the same water bottle over and over, but yet, I mean, you're buying the same water bottle over and over, but yet they're the same bottles. Why not get a big bottle and fill that water bottle a couple times? It saves you money and the environment plastic. Things like that are just not done. They're not approved. Old people go, gross. They don't even think that. When I do it in front of somebody who's 30, they go, that's a great idea. I should do the same. I do it in front of somebody who's 80 or 75, and they go, gross. Why? It's washed. Gross. Well, you know what's gross? The plastic bottles on the side of the road, the dead animals dying everywhere, and the fact that we're losing the sun, we're getting more and more clouds, pollution, and when I take a deep breath, my lungs don't like it, and I have asthma, and my children most likely will have some type of lung disease where they can't breathe. That's what I think is gross. Stuff like that. Having conversations like that on a medium like this is great, because I can go back, pull the footage, and then write it down or give a separate recording of bits and pieces that I might want to throw into this book. It's going to be 10 years in the making, but The hardest part isn't the information, it's putting it down on some type of medium where it can't be lost when it's complete. Because if I spend another 3 years getting all this information in order and put down someplace, I then don't want to lose it all like I did the last time. So that's why it's posted on YouTube, because I could break every single phone I have. I could rip up every single notebook and destroy all my recording voice devices, and I still would be able to go back and pull some of it out. And that's why I'm doing this, but I have to delete and redo a lot of them. So, yeah, hopefully that won't take too long.